Welcome to the channel. I'm Rob, and today we're going to be creating some classic Horus Heresy World Eaters. So we've got a very simple but effective World Eaters scheme for you today, using some of the newer 40k models, but I've done a few conversions, elements to this to make it my own, kind of a Khan the Betrayer. We're going to use matte white by the Army Painter over a grey primer, and the grey primer went over all the elements that are going to be white and all the elements that are going to be blue as well. Now, this is Army Painter's grey. But you could use any grey, and if you don't have any grey primer, you can just use a fairly neutral grey as your base coat over it black. I've speeded the video up slightly, but I've included most of the footage here, so you can see where I've done the highlights, and I've done that classic element of a zenithal and a light source coming from the front and a light source coming from the back. So you'll see on the sides that the white doesn't hit that element to be able to give us some contrast, just to make that plate look a bit more interesting. You could, of course, just do this with a white primer, and it will still look effective. And it's totally up to you. Your access to you may not have access to an airbrush, so as an alternative, just using a white primer will be fine. But this just adds a little bit of contrast. But this is just the white. That's it. There's no more complexity to it. It's just grey primer and a white over the top of it, and you can see the elements of the blue here as well. So of course we want to leave them off because I'm going to be airbrushing the blue over the shoulder pads and the backpack, but it just makes your life so much simpler just to either put them on blue tack or to pin them as well. But you can see here I've really thought about the volumes on that shoulder pad where the light is going to be hitting as well. You could do this on the model, which would probably be slightly better, but I've already judged kind of where the light placement will be before we started. We're going to use magic blue, brilliant colour. I used this for my Ultramarines video that I did recently as well. Nice bright interesting blue, not a boring blue at all, and because we've used a grey primer, there isn't going to be loads of contrast, but it will ensure as well, because we've used the grey, that it remains quite bright, which is exactly what I want for this colour scheme. I think that to be able to get a decent coverage with this blue, you should be looking to do about 3 thin coats, and you can see me passing between the shoulder pads and the backpack here as well. But you can start to see where those transitions are between the pure white and the grey as well. So you can see there's a bit of contrast, bit of difference. I did feel though that it needed a little bit more contrast in the hand. So what I then did was mixed Grim Black, which you're about to see, and Magic Blue together in a 1-to-1 mix. No thinner. And then this just adds a little bit of contrast into the deepest areas, into the shadows where the light can't get. You can just see me hitting the bottom of the pad there, and you'll see on the backpack as well that I do exactly the same thing, just hit one side in order to add a little bit of contrast to that. But that is the main colours. Now you could of course do all of that without an airbrush. You could just do a rattle can white primer, and then you could paint the magic blue speed paint on, and it would look something like this. It would be pretty similar. You just wouldn't have the same volumes in your mini. We're going to use Grim Black here, which is a speed paint, to do all the black elements, to do all the cabling, and all the kind of the I guess the rubber in between the armor plates as well, the rubber seals, and it's a really nice speed paint this, but it gives lots of definition to all of the pipes and all of the elements, because it's going over white obviously, but it does look fantastic. Satchel brown. So this goes over all of the leather elements, obviously. And there's loads of elements that are leather on these Khorne Berserker models. And we won't really do anything more with the leather than that. Obviously, being a speed paint, the edges kind of are nice and highlighted, which kind of does all the heavy lifting for us in the same way that using the Grim Black did as well. So true copper, plate mail, metal, and hoplite gold, and I mixed those together to give a kind of a paint color that looked like this. And I am painting all of, I guess, the brass elements. This is a light brass color. And I probably favoured the copper and the silver more than I did the gold. And you can see all those elements now have been painted. And then just painting that red leather handle, that mixture of black and red. Transfers need to go down. I've glossed the model at this point. Now that's going to be important in a bit, but you can't apply transfers without having gloss varnish the model or gloss the area. I've done loads of videos about glossing and loads of videos about applying transfers, so I won't repeat it. But because it is now varnished from that when we need to apply the transfers, what we can then do is apply our oil wash. Now we're going to be quite precise with this. And we're going to be using burnt umber. Now I've just mixed this burnt umber with a little bit of white spirit just to help it flow. Now on all of the gold elements, I'm going to use this quite liberally. All of the brass elements rather, I'm going to use this quite liberally. And then on all of the white panels, I'm going to be quite careful about where I place it. I'm going to use it essentially like as a pin wash. But there are obviously going to be places where I go wrong, so I can clean it up, and you'll see in a bit where I do clean up where I've gone wrong. But my recommendation would not be to douse this in your oils, because it will really tint the entire colour. You still want that white plate, and you still want the blue plate shining through. So you can see this is what it looks like, and you can see me just with a cotton wool bud just dipped in some clean white spirit. I'm just wiping away anywhere where I've made any mistakes, anywhere where I've been a bit too heavy-handed with that burnt umber oil wash. I use Winsor & Newton burnt umber oils. I buy the ones that you mix with white spirits, but there are water-soluble ones that you can use as well. And this is what it looks like with a matte spray. So I've matted it all down now. And this is what it looks like. So because we've used the matte, it looks quite boring at the moment because all the metallics have been matted down. So we do need to go back and add some edge highlights. Now I go back to that original colour with the gold that I use. And I just add a little bit more silver in. And I just go around and edge highlight everything. But you can be quite rough with this. You don't need to, you know, this is a battered brass. You don't need to be super precise. But yeah, I just edge highlight everything with it, and I did exactly the same for the silvers as well. Now it's up to you which silver you choose, but I just basically dry brush those silvers. I've done an OSL effect on the plasma gun. Loads of videos about OSL effects online, and then I've added a base, added a head, and that's it. That is literally all we do for World Eaters. So a really straightforward, simple video. But hopefully it's given you some of the key elements, particularly to do with the armour, that I think people probably would struggle most with. There are lots of videos online about painting skin. There's lots of videos online about OSL as well. And it's up to you how you want to do your bases. But hopefully that's given you the kind of the key jigsaw pieces to be able to go away and create your own World Eater schemes. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to like it, leave a comment, and please don't forget to subscribe as well. See you on the next one.